Steve Giordano's truck here. It is a 1995 Ford that has a D&J deck plate motor in it. He was here last year and we ended up having some transmission problems, and he made, I think, 1,342 horsepower. So he wanted to come back with a vengeance and try to make more horsepower this year. So he upgraded his compound setup. He has a 485 96 132 T6 on the manifold with an On3 Performance 107 mil GT55, and still has 500% injectors, and he has a 14 mil and 12 mil dual CP3s. So we will see what kind of power we can make out of it today, and hopefully it's more than last year. Alright, so we're all finished with Steve's truck and made really good numbers. So last year he made 1,342 horsepower, and this year on fuel only we ended up at 1,699 horsepower, which is really good for the setup that he has, being that he is, I guess you could say, air limited. And then of course we can't take it off the dyno without spraying it, so we had a single solenoid with dashboard feed lines and a single 88 jet, and we sprayed it to 1,838 horsepower. So not quite the horsepower that he was wanting. He was hoping for 1,900 on spray, but still a very good, well-rounded setup that makes a lot of horsepower. So I will get him off the dyno and send him on his way.
Alright, today we've got Daniel Hartman here. He brought a 2006 truck. This is a truck he pulls in Workstock, and he's been running good, but he's made some changes, did an engine setup and turbo changes, and you want to just make sure that everything's running good. We've had it on the dyno, what, a year and a half ago or something like that. But tell us a little bit about the current setup and we'll get the dyno in.
Mid-season, we needed a new engine, 6.7, 250% injectors, stock piston, Corilla rod,
late 5.9 bolt.
Late 5.9 bolt piston. Hamilton 178 208 cam, girdle, main studs, head studs, things like that. Home built head, stock intake shell, all the good parts inside of it. Tater built 63, 68 Workstock turbo on it, complete 100% drop in. That's what we've been using all year, and just trying to get it dialed in and see what it makes.
Yep, so we went to a 6.7 rail pressure sensor, rescaled it for the 6.7 rail pressure so we can run more pressure. He also has a 10-bar map sensor he wants to wire in. Those are little things that take tune changes, so we'll get all that stuff dialed in. It's an automatic transmission, so and it's got 456 gears. The lower gears are a little bit harder to dyno because it wants to run through the run so fast, and it doesn't give the engine enough time to get to full boost, so we have to kind of hold it back, use the dyno brakes to load the engine, make sure we get an accurate number. So get the thing running through its paces, probably running on the tune that it came in on. Said he just won a couple pulls in the last couple weeks, so it's not like it's running bad. He just wants to know if there's anything left. So yep, we'll see what it does.
All right.
Okay, first rip, I don't really see anything bad other than the rail pressure was actually maxing out the sensor at 29,000 PSI, and normally it's supposed to regulate, I'm commanding high 28,000 on rail, and it never came off of 29,000. That means it's overshooting, so I'm going to add current in the tune to try to get it to where it's actually going where I'm supposed to, because he does have a rail plug in this, and that's going to cause rail pressure overshoot. You don't know how high pressure actually went. So I want to get that to where it's actually controlled, where we for sure don't end up blowing the tops of the injectors off or anything like that, because that is a risk that you have when you run a rail plug. So we are going to reflash, lowering the current table, or actually raising the current table for the FCA. And I'm going to command a little bit less pressure to try to make it target the set point better. And run it again, see if it makes any more power. Okay, we learned some things today. We did not make a lot more power than what you came in with. The most power we made today was 854 horsepower. We actually tightened the wastegate, and that actually dropped us about 12 horsepower. If I remember right, dropped about 12 horsepower tightening the wastegate. So that means we're going to back off. So these turbos, when you're spinning them this hard to make this kind of numbers, it's really picky on how much exhaust flow, because at some point drive pressure robs more horsepower than the boost makes. So we learned what we needed to learn. This truck was on the dyno back in 19. We looked it up and it had made 922 horsepower with the same 63 millimeter inducer turbo. And that was making closer to 60 pounds of boost. And today it was only making 47 to 49 pounds of boost. So this is a safe setup. You can go out there and you don't have to worry about the turbo being right on the edge of exploding. But if you crank down on the wastegate and make that extra boost, you get closer to that danger zone, but then you end up with an extra 75 horsepower. So he at least has, you got a good platform to know where you're at.
We know what it's going to do when it goes out there. Now there's no issues in the tune, no issues with the engine, so we can go out there and rock it.
We ran 1600 microseconds, 1700 microseconds, 1800 microseconds, and all three of those tunes were all within 9 horsepower of each other. Tells us that we're just smack up against the limit of the amount of air we can get in the engine. But this gives us good information. If he knows he wants to make more power, we'll have to figure out how to get more boost out of the turbo setup, and then he can put it on the track.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, well, good luck. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.